Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, friends, for joining us. As always, we will try to bring another Quranic ayat, and we will try to explain some of the parables and allegories in it. At the same time, if there is any lesson to be learned, then we will present that. With the tawfiq, ta'id, himmat wa yari, we start. This is our part 17 of 2024. Our chapter for the day and the subtitle is to bring them out of the darkness into the light. It sounds very simple. This is Surah Baqarah, ayat number 257. Allah says, Allah is the guardian of the believers. Underline word. He brings them, the believers, out of the darkness into the light. As for the disbelievers, their guardians are false gods who lead them out of the light and into the darkness. It is they who will be the resident of the fire. They will be there forever. Simple understanding of this ayat would be that Allah is the guardian. He guides the believers, and He does not guide the disbelievers. How does He guide the believers? When they are in the darkness, He brings them into the light. On the other side, those who do not believe, they also think that they have their Lord, their master, their mullahs. But they take them from the light into the darkness. And at the end, they will be the resident of the hellfire. And they will remain there forever. Very simple looking, does not require too much tawil or translation or understanding. Let's see if that is true. In the same surah, Surah 17, Allah gives a story about the hypocrites. That is Surah 2, ayat number 17. Let me tell you the story so you would have a background of what is light and what is darkness. And how do we define hypocrites? First, the story. Second, explanation of hypocrites. And the third, how do we be amongst those who are guided? This subject is very much in line by our previous 16 lessons, especially after the lesson of the light, of the Nur. Ayah Mizvah from the Surah Nur that we covered last week. And there is one more subject on the light, inshallah, we will cover in our next week session. The story goes, and this is the example for our understanding, that there are two friends, two mu'minins, two hamjins, two people close to each other, let's say from the same town, same tribe, and probably going to the same place of worship. They both start a journey. On this journey, one have a lithium battery torch, flashlight, and other one starts with a match box. Remember, we started with they are both equal at that time, both equal. But their journey begins in two different manner, meaning what do they have with them? One had the flashlight with a lithium battery that will light and remain lit and give a bright LED light for him to walk on the path with this light. Whereas other one had a match box. Very confidently, they both starts on the journey into the dark and deep jungle. When they were outside, it was bright enough, but as they walked into the jungle, it started to get darker and darker and darker. The friend with the flashlight instantly turned on his flashlight, LED light, very bright, lithium battery, powerful battery. Whereas the other one, he bumped into things, into the bushes, into the trees, into the rocks. So he stopped, pulled his matchbox and struck the match. Here comes the light. He gathered a couple of dry wood and put that fire into the wood. In that fire, in the light, he could see few feet away. So he started to walk. After 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 feet, he lost the light because he had left the light behind. And again, he started to bump into the bushes, into the plants and the trees and the rocks. So he stopped, strike the second match. Here comes the light. He gathered a few pieces of dry wood. Again, he had some light. So now we can see. and he could start walking. On and on, every time he would come into the darkness, he would light the match. Eventually, he runs out of the match. In the complete darkness, deep into the jungle, so dark that he could not see his own hands in front of his eyes. Remember, he did have eyes, the working, functional eyes. But because of the deep darkness, he could not see anything. And eventually, he got lost and he died in the jungle. On the other hand, the other friend with the lithium battery LED flashlight easily, without bumping into anything, walked on that path, the straight path, because he could see it with the help of the light, and came out on the other side in timely manner, sound and safe, without any issue. Remember, they both started the same way. Allah talks about this, that their example is that of someone who kindles a fire, but when it lights up all around them, he starts to walk, right? So after a few minutes, the light goes away. It sounds like Allah takes away their light, leaving them in complete darkness, unable to see. Why would Allah do that? Allah is the most merciful, most merciful. Allah is saying, don't blame me. And Allah explains that they are willfully, not that they are willfully deaf, dumb, and blind. So they will never return to the right path. Not that Allah had taken the light away. They willfully left their light behind. If you think of all of the religions of the world, from the beginning to the end, did not Allah promise on the very first day that I will send my Khalifa to you, so he may bring you out of the darkness into the light? Did he not take and send and gave guidance to the humanity through 124,000 messengers, prophets, Hujatan, Aimai Tairin, Arifin? But we still see that there are more than we can count who left their light behind. and started to walk in the jungle of this world in the darkness. Why darkness? Wasn't sun out, the moon out, the stars? Yes, physical light was there, but the light of the guidance, light of the nur, light of the hidayat, they themselves willfully, because they choose not to listen, they willfully become deaf. They willfully not speak of the truth. They willfully become dumb. They willfully close their eyes to the light. They willfully become blind. And look at religion after religion after religion. And within the true religions of the Adam, of the Noah, of the Ibrahim, of the Musa, of the Isa, of the Muhammad the Mustafa, Habib Khuda, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Did not Allah send them guidance, light again and again and again? For a minute, they would see the light, and for a minute, they will follow on their path with the light, but then they will not follow the guide and the guidance, the nur which that prophet would leave behind for them. They refuse to hold the flashlight. Allah did not take the light away from them. They chose to left their light behind. They chose to. And look at the world around us. And we must appreciate what we have in the form of the guide, the light, and the book. We have the living guide and the nur and the book. But if someone choose to willfully become deaf, dumb, and blind, what would happen to them? Just like that gentleman walking into the jungle of the life without the light. Once in a while, he may find a light, but not for too long. Not for too long. Because he has chosen not to be guided. Look at this 7 ayat in front of you. It will give you a complete picture. Who are mushrikeen, hypocrites? Why are we using word mushrikeen and hypocrites? Because once in a while, they will say we believe, but actually they don't believe. They will say we see the light, but then refuse to be guided. They will say we see you, then they will close their eyes. From ayat 14 through 20th, when they meet the believers, we are talking about hypocrites. When they meet the believers, they say, we believe. But when they are alone with their evil hypocrites friends, they say, actually, we are really with you. We were only mocking the believers. Allah will throw their mockery back at them, leaving them to continue wandering blindly in their defiance. They are the one who trade guidance for misguide. They are the one who would trade the true guidance with the false guidance. But this trade is profitless, and they are not rightly guided. Their example is that of someone who will kindles a fire, temporary, but when it lights up all around them for a minute or two, they will walk in the light. Then, because they are disbelievers, they will forget and they will leave their light behind. And Allah takes away their light, leaving them in complete darkness, unable to see. Why? Because they are hypocrites, willfully deaf, dumb, and blind. So they will never find the right path. Or like a rainstorm from the sky, wherein is darkness, thunder, and flash of lightning. They thrust their fingers in their ears by reason of the tender claps. For fear of death, Allah encompasses the disbelievers by His might. What is this example? They ask for the rain, they ask for the light, and when the lightning comes, because it is so bright and loud, that they put their finger in their ears and willfully become deaf. And even if they know the path and the truth, they do not speak, they become dumb. And even if they see the true path, knowingly, they become blind. So what does Allah do? He encompasses all of them into the darkness. As after the lightning, your eyes will go blind for a second. Just like that, when the prophet comes, messenger comes, Arifin comes, Aimai Tyrene comes, they see the light, but then it's like a lightning, they become blind and they cannot come out of their darkness after that. And we can see that in throughout the history. Look at the time of the Huzur himself. Did he not guide them? Did he not show them the Nur? Did he not give them the book and the guidance in the book? Isn't book clear enough for the Muslimin? Doesn't it talk about the Nur again and again? Guidance again and again? Imams again and again? And Allah's mercy. How could Allah leave anyone in darkness? How can you say that He is most merciful and then say, He will guide us. He's the Rabbul Alameen. And then pray, Haydina Sirat al-Mustaqim. Guide us on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And when the guide comes, and when he guides, you say, no, I do not want to be guided. Whatever I have 1400 years ago is good enough for me. I do not need the nur, the light, or the guide. They have fallen into the darkness, deep darkness, that they cannot see their hand in front of their eyes. So much in darkness, now they will live there forever. It is as if the lightning were about to snatch away their sight. Whenever lightning strikes, they walk it in this light for a second or two, but when darkness covers them, they stand still. Had Allah willed, He could have taken away their hearing, their sight. Surely Allah is most capable of everything. But Allah did not do that. He gave them the hearing so they may listen to the guidance. As they are listening to this guidance, this ayat, this recording, as we speak right now, today and tomorrow. This is not a recording hidden, but open to all. Allah have not taken their hearing. If they wish to listen, Allah, they will find Allah most merciful. If they wanted to see, they will find Allah most merciful. And surely Allah knows it all, who are the mu'mineen and guided, and who are the hypocrites. We have a reference regarding this ayat, Surah 2, ayat number 257, from the book called Recognition of Imam, Imam Shanasi, because Nur Shanasi is about Imam Shanasi. The light is with the guide, the Imam. For whom? For the believers who wish to listen and who wish to see. For them, Allah have kept today, yesterday, and inshallah tomorrow a bright light for them to be guided. God says in this verse, Allah is the guardian of those who believe. He brings them out of the darkness. Only thing you have to do today, doesn't matter what happened yesterday or in the past. If you made a mistake, you have fallen into the darkness. Only thing you have to do is accept the guidance in the Quran and become the believer. And if you do that, He will bring them out of the darkness into the light. But if you wish not to do that and disbelieve what is shown to you today in this ayat, and if you remain disbeliever, then those who disbelieve, He will point you towards the false god, shayateen. And the false god are their guardians now, who take them away from the Imam, the nur, the light, the guidance, the Sirat al-Mustaqim. If you choose to do that, Allah do not need you. He has enough angels and the mu'mineen. He does not need you. He will appoint you false God, and they will take you away from the true God, the God of the nur and the light, of the book and the hidayat. And your God, the false God that you have chosen for yourself, they will take you away from the nur, from the imam, from the light, into the darkness. And they will be the inmates of the fire. Both the guide and those who have made them their guardians, they both will be together in the hellfire, in the darkness, in the ignorancy, away from the nur and the guidance and the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And they will abide there in forever. Explanation of this by Allama Sahib. The gist of its purport is that if there is always the darkness of deviation in the world, there is always the light of the guidance in this world. Otherwise, if the world were only overcast by the dark clouds of disbeliefs and deviation, without the sun, the light of faith and guidance, there would have been great injustice from the divine law for the people of the world. What is he saying? Just like there are ignorancy and darkness in this world, there is always the light and the nur and hidayat in this world. If there was a one human who could not find this light, if he wanted to, then how can we say that Allah have guided whomever he wish and will? Allah always is guiding, have guided, and will guide. If you pay attention to his light and the guidance, and that is the divine law that he always guides. The last lesson for the day, then I will make a brief comment after this. There are two kinds of darkness and two kinds of light. Two kinds of hadi and two kinds of hidayat. Just like when the earth turns its face away from the sun, earth falls into the darkness. That is the physical darkness. When a human turns their face away from the nur, the guide and the guidance, they fall into the ignorancy, into the darkness. But if they turn their face forward, like the earth in the morning, back towards the sun, if a human who is lost in the darkness choose to turn their face back towards the sun, the light, then they would be again guided. It's not that today, because you have lost the light, you have lost it forever. If you choose to come back into the light, then the light you will find always is there to guide you. So in this, I'm going to read this blue highlighted part, and you can read the rest on your own. Darkness is of two kinds, physical and spiritual. Physical darkness is due to the night and the physical calamities, meaning Earth moving away from the sun or a human moving away from the guide, the Imam. Spiritual darkness, however, is ignorance and the intraceable questions concerning the intelligible. So when we fall out of the guidance, we fall into the darkness of ignorancy, and we don't understand. We are not able to understand how and where did we lose that light. Both of this light, the physical light and the spiritual light, comes from the God through the mediation of two lights. One is the sun that dispels the physical darkness, and the other is the Imam of the time, who as the sun of insight for the spiritual darkness. Rest you can read for yourself. My last brief comment. You will find the guidance and the light. And when we say light, we are talking about Nur in two forms. One is the physical form, embodied Nur, Nure Mujassam. As Allah had breathed His Nur into Adam, embodied. But Iblis refused to follow the embodied Nur. And he said that Nur-e Mujarrad, the Allah which is unseen, is good enough for me to be guided. And he got lost into the darkness forever. And this embodied Nur came again and again and again as per promise of Allah to the humanity. He never took the guide and the guidance, the light and the Nur away from the human. Why? So this embodied Nur, the guide, the Imam, the Hadi Barak of the time, can guide you towards the Nur-e Mujarrad, the absolute Nur. Because some chose to leave the Nur behind and not hold on to the embodied Nur amongst them, between them, in front of them. They could not reach to the Nur-e Mujarrad, the hidden and unseen Allah. So they got lost. And they got lost further. And then they got lost even further and further away from the path. But that does not mean that today, if someone wish to return back to Allah, then he can return back to Allah easily. And for that, Allah has an ayat in the Quran. Then look, you are from Allah and you shall return back to Him. You are from Allah, you belong to Him, and you shall return back to Him. This is a command, Amr, to every single human, every single Muslim, and every single person who reads the Quran and reads this ayat. So this was my last brief comment for our complete understanding how and where you will find the light. These ayats are in front of you. This is not ayat that somebody made it up. You can read this ayat for yourself. G.
Thank you, Aziz sir, for bringing these verses to our attention, or bringing these verses to light. So we can open the floor up for Q&A, as we normally like to do. Please, you can also raise your hand if you'd like to. If it's easier to speak out the question, it should be under the reactions icon on your Zoom chat that you could raise your hand. In the meantime, you can other people can type in their questions if they have any. So while we wait for that people to get their questions together, I really like that the last slide, and I recognized that slide from that the original source of that is actually Wajiddin. The very few chapters were published by the Institute of Ismaili Studies in a book that was called The Anthology of Ismaili Literature. So that section was from the Wajiddin. They published like maybe four discourses, 4 chapters from there, and that was one of them, on the Tawil of Inna Lillahi Inna Ilaihi Rajiun. And I know we've discussed this in the past as well. And I always find it very interesting that if one reads the rest of it, Pir Nasir Khusro actually says that when you have those difficulties, you should recite those same words, the Inna Lillahi wa Inna Ilaihi Rajiun. You should actually recite that, but with the understanding, the meaning that you're referring back, or you're returning to, your thoughts are submitting to the Imam, because you obviously don't have the answer to this question. Otherwise, you would not be in the darkness. You would not be in confusion. But you should recognize where that light is, and you can recite these words, which becomes like a prayer. And I just thought maybe we can sort of build on that. Even though he says you can just recite the words, he doesn't necessarily say that you can do it as a zikr. But why not? If he says to recite the words even once, perhaps we can make that in our personal life, like almost like a tasbihat or a zikr or a wird. It's a prayer that we can have as almost like a zikr that we're seeking and returning back to where that source, that light is. So it's a very nice chapter, the Tawil of
one of the Tawil of this ayat, and if you look at this ayat very careful, it actually reads that you are from Allah, and you should refer back to Him. You should refer back to Him in the time of difficulties, so He may guide you. This is the Tawil of this ayat. We read this ayat when someone dies, whereas for the living, this ayat could be an instrumental ayat, that whenever you are lost and in difficulties, remember your worth. And what is your worth? You are from Allah. You are not a small being. You are not alone. You are from Allah. And in difficulties, refer back to Him so He may guide you back to the path and back to the light and back to Him. That is this ayat that Pir Nasri Khusro had spoken about. Gee.
So I think it's perhaps very clear today. We have no questions yet.